Tiffany Grimes writes in the New York Times today about a very sad phenomenon, that there is a high correlation, probably causation, between reports of African Americans being shot by police and admissions on psychiatric basis by blacks who've read these reports. They are depressed, and there is something we and they can do about it. I do have a solution for this sad situation. It is to divorce the race from the act. We should not frame the death or shooting and recovery even of a black person who has done crimes or is resisting arrest, which itself in most states is a crime, as being a good thing. We should regard the arrest of a bad person and the subduing of that person if he resists arrest as a good thing, irrespective of his race. The number of African Americans who have been killed at the hands of police officers that have been made public, who it was a race-based shooting, killing, at most 2 have entered my orbit. And I've studied this, okay? Walter Scott down in South Carolina, victim. Another man, I'm blanking his name now, looks like a race-based victim. Philandro Castile, close. This was in Minnesota, but there was no evidence that the officer who shot him as he was peacefully surrendering in his car, no evidence that this was a racist cop. By contrast, the many shootings that you've heard about come with resisting arrest, come with bad guys that we shouldn't want to be associated with, no matter who our race. If you, instead of calling it black and white, but instead calling it thug versus innocent victim, you have a better dichotomy. And in some ways, a police officer who is on the other end of an arrest resistor is a victim. As soon as a perp physically resists arrest, he's putting the arresting officer's career in jeopardy. If there's an altercation, he's putting the officer's life in jeopardy. The officer carries a gun, perp might too. Perp might be able to wrestle it from the officer and use it against him. Just that act of resisting arrest is fearsome. Take this, please, not from White Mark, but how about one of my heroes, Larry Elder, who was raised in a tough part of Los Angeles, South Central LA, and he will relate how his father dutifully said, son, if you're pulled over, you comply. You'll fight another day, you'll do it in court, but you will not let yourself become a shooting victim. The extent to which progressives want to classify by race instead of behavior and values, where we are all one race, the progressives are doing harm. I remember, this is about 30 years ago, where a member of my creed, Jews, went bad. Baruch Goldstein, American-born Israeli settler who in 1994 shot and killed, I believe, 30 Palestinians, wounded many others. I was embarrassed. I felt mortified that I was tied to him. His name's almost the same as mine. That embarrassment lasted a week. And at that point, I had turned myself around to say, look, this guy had values that I never associate with anyway, okay? He was a terrorist on a mission. And that's not me or Jews in America like me. And you know, the Israeli government did something very good that we should take a lesson from. They actually arrested conspirators who, I shouldn't even call them conspirators, just members of his same sect. They were aggressive settlers. And they outlawed a whole party, a political party that was bent on removing Palestinians from Israel. The Koch party is no more, thanks to the actions of government. Well, it wouldn't be a bad thing for our state governments, anyway, to follow the actions of semi-terrorist organizations, and Black Lives Matter has become one of them, are activities that need to be suppressed. But even if our government doesn't do anything about it, we can suppress our reactions. That when a good cop, in defense of his own life or in pursuit of the law that's his job, harms another of whatever race, we should actually feel he is doing his job. And the person who's violating, the person who might have suffered the bigger consequences, the thug, got what was coming to him. Look, in the old days, we don't witness these kind of shootings, but we did in the movies, okay? When good guys kill bad guys in Westerns, we're happy. Look, even more modern. I remember the elation I felt at the end of a 1990s movie where Danny Glover is a police officer who, in the end, picks off a racist bastard killer from South Africa. We all love it because justice is triumphing over bad. We should feel the same way. And those poor people now who feel mentally insecure might look to the security of good people doing their jobs and rooting out thugs of any race as being the right kind of America that they should want to live in. I'm Mark Stewart.